What's up, y'all? I swear this thing still gives me chills and that tingle goes down my spine when I say that this is my car. But we pulled the trigger, we bought a 992 GT3 RS, we traded in the old one. Let's go. The short of it is I couldn't be happier. This thing is absolutely insane. I've had an absolute blast with it so far. I've had it for about 4 weeks and I've driven about 600 miles so far. So just enough to kind of get to know it. Just a little handshake introduction that we've made with each other. I know that I just bought my 2019 GT3 RS, the GT Silver one, which I'll post a link to that video here. That was about 4 or 5 months ago now. And my plan was to keep that car for about a year or two. I mean, I love that car. I still love this car. It's kind of hard to part ways with it because it was my first real like sports car, right? I love the GT Silver and I love the Guards Red. Those are probably my two favorite non-PTS Porsche 911 colors, and I'm proud to say that I've now owned both. That's something I didn't really talk about in that video, is that the end goal was to get into one of these. And I certainly didn't expect to get into one of these as quickly as I got into it, which is about 4 or 5 months down the road, right? And it goes to the spec of this car. So this is a non-WISAC 2023 GT3 RS with only a few options. It's got the yellow brakes, which means the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes. It's got the front axle lift. It's got a couple interior options, and that's really about it. This is pretty close to the lowest MSRP car that you could get, and these are still trading at MSRP plus X, right? And so X varies, you know, I think it varies depending on when you watch this video. Essentially, if I was gonna make the jump from the 2019 car to one of these, it had to be on an example like this. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of examples like this. A lot of people that were lucky enough to get allocations for these cars, they spec'd them to the moon. They did WISAC pack, they did you know, all the leather options, they did all the goodies on the interior, and those MSRPs could easily reach like 320, 330 and beyond. So the point is that it was perfect. It was a perfect car for me, and I think Pierre, you knew that. Pierre at Porsche of Nashville, shout out to you, my friend. Thank you so much for an incredible experience. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with the car. I mean, look at it. It is absolutely stunning. We're gonna drive it. We're gonna drive it on track. We're gonna drive it on the roads. We're just gonna have fun with it. So POV drives, I wanna post a lot of videos about that. I have a pretty absurd GoPro mount that basically sticks to my head that we're about to do here right now. We're gonna do track days. I want to share my journey with this car with all of you. So if you're into that, if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, enough talking. Let's get behind the wheel. Let's put that camera on our forehead and see what this thing's like to drive. All right, so driving the 992. First impression, right? It drives a lot like my last car, the 2019, the 991.2. One of the key differences that I love are these rev shift indicators that you see on the dash. So you can only see them when you get high up in the range. They'll turn blue when it's time to shift, which I think is pretty true to what you would see in like a cup car, like a Porsche cup car or like a GT3R, a GTD car. So really cool touch there. Shift on blue. It's built into the dash. The sound is still there. And the gears are significantly shorter. You find yourself shifting more. And you find yourself at the top of the RPM band more, which is where this car wants to be. This is where this car lives, between 6 and 9. And that's where this car wants to be. It's a 9,000 RPM car for a reason, and it's built to be up there. So I would say that the car definitely feels a little bit stiffer than the 991.2. I think I saw somewhere that it's like 25% or 50%, I'm not sure which one, stiffer spring rates. And that's all adjustable in here, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Oh, something on the road there. We're good. an absolute blast. I mean, this thing, even just driving it like pretty casually, I mean, this thing's gonna give you a thrill. So welcoming and wants you to push it. Very easy to drive. That will never get old. That will never get old. I don't care. I don't care what you say. That's a sound that I could live with forever. That is just so good. And this car is fast. Do not listen to the people that say that these cars are slow. This is a momentum car. So yes, off the line, maybe it's not, you know, 1,000 horsepower fast. Fine, who cares about that? This car feels so good at speed, and it just wants you to keep going and keep going, right? And so part of the criticism of this car is that it's a one-trick pony, right? It's a track car. It's meant for the track. It's meant for the Nürburgring. I think it's like a 6:55 Nürburgring time, which is absolutely scorching fast. But it is still an absolute blast to drive on the street, and we're missing one of the coolest features. Let's see if you can see the, you're not gonna be able to see it, but it says DRS ready right here. I hit the DRS button and DRS is active. Launch mode. Whoa! Now, I can't say that you can feel that, you know, on like a slight pull to 60 miles an hour. You can't, but it's there and it's awesome. And that button says DRS. I mean, name me another car that has a DRS button. I don't know. I don't know if there's any. This might be the only one. Pretty cool. Again, we got pretty wet roads here. That was a lot better than just be talking the whole time. I mean, this car speaks for itself. The sound is unbelievable. I mean, the 991.2 was such a high bar to hit in terms of the sound of that car. And granted, this car does have a titanium exhaust on it from Boost Logic, but that's a pretty comparable system to what I had on my 991.2, which I think was a custom fabricated titanium system, but it was a catback system, which is what this has. Hey. As I give people the peace sign with this giant camera on my head. That guy was wanting me to rev it, but I don't know. But again, that was a pretty high bar to hit, right? With the sound of that car. I would say that this sounds better, slightly better, but it's a different better. It's like, it's more of a refined hum in a way, whereas the 991.2 was more of a raspy kind of scream, right? They're both loud in a good way. I would give the slight edge to this car in terms of sound. So as far as differences, right, the big things that stand out to me on initial impressions, again, I've only driven this car for about 500-600 miles. One is the pedal throw. That's one of the first things that I noticed when I sat in the car and kind of gave it some gas and some brake, is that the pedal throw appears to be a little bit longer, which I think is kind of cool because you can have a little bit more control on what kind of inputs you're putting into, especially on the throttle. The interior is a huge upgrade. I mean, this thing's got the wireless CarPlay. You know, you've got your, usable cup holders here. One's right here, which is great. And the other one there for the passengers over on the far right side. But overall, I think the interior is just fantastic. So big upgrade there from Porsche. And then the gear ratios, which I already touched on that, but it definitely is a huge, you know, game changer in terms of how the car drives. Because I think you're in the higher RPM bands more, which I think is what this car's goal is. The intended purpose of this car is to be. Other than that, honestly, it feels pretty similar, you know, as far as the ergonomics go. Here in the, let's go through the center screen here. So let's see, let's go into like ESC. So I have ESC turned on pretty high right here. It's at 6 because it's a little bit wet out. I have ESC turned on, but we are in track mode. I also have the ability to go in here to PASM and the active suspension management, changing everything from rebound, front and rear, and compression front and rear. I had it at +1. Should probably bump that down a little bit, honestly, because it's a little bit damp out, I think. Again, I'm just scratching the surface on kind of what and how to tweak that and when to tweak that. But this whole system here is going to be fun to get into the weeds of and to figure out how best to use it. And then the torque vectoring here, which these dials here on the left, the red indicates the dial here, so the red on the screen indicates the red dial here for the coast, and then the power here is the blue dial. That's a little bit above my pay grade in terms of knowledge base, but we'll get there. We'll learn it. We'll learn it together. Enough talking. Let's hear this exhaust. I mean, it's hard to beat that. Oh yeah. It's just too much fun. It's too fun. This car is too fun. That's my verdict. You know, things shouldn't be this fun. This car is that fun. So it's just, it's so cool. These cars, these GT3 cars, these Porsche GT cars, like whatever generation you pick, the 996, the 997, the 991, the 992s, I think are the coolest cars in the world. They're my dream cars. I want one of every generation. If I win the lottery, that's what we'll do. So it's settled. It's settled then. I'm gonna start buying the lotto tickets. Y'all, I think that's going to conclude the POV portion of the video. I might wrap it up here, so thank y'all for watching. Again, if you're into these cars, hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more to come. We're going to be posting a lot of content about this car. Just sharing our journey with it as we continue to learn more about it, and just experience it, right? Just go out to drive it. Take it to the track. Thank you all again for watching. We'll see you next time.